this holistic lifestyle and holistic business approach, maybe they don't make me quite as much money, and maybe they don't get me quite as many likes on Instagram, and maybe they're not as cool as what other people are doing, but it creates a lifestyle for me that's so much more enjoyable. And to me, that's priceless. Welcome back to another midweek Modern Craftsman, where today I'm actually recording on a Monday because I had some meetings earlier. I had the studio set up and I was like, you know what? I have some things on my mind that I want to dig into. So I was listening to a couple of podcasts while running last week, and just mental health, well-being, lifestyle podcast, and something that they were discussing was happiness and like true happiness and being content with life. And a topic that they brought up that I hadn't heard about was called hedonic adaptation, also known as the hedonic treadmill. And it is the tendency for humans to quickly return to a relatively stable level of happiness despite major positive or negative life changes, right? When something really bad happens, it may seem terrible, it may seem insurmountable, but eventually we're going to stabilize. If something really amazing happens, or you say, I'm going to buy a new truck that's going to make me happy, I'm going to chase this project that's going to make me happy, eventually that short-term happiness is going to fade away, and you're going to stabilize, and you're going to be back to your baseline happiness. So at the end of the day, what's really important to do is understand where your baseline of happiness is and where that comes from and what can get you there, because we're going to have these highs and lows. We're going to chase certain things. There's going to be bad things that happen in our lives, and we're going to settle back into that baseline of happiness. And understanding what makes you happy is so much more important than chasing the things that you think are going to make you happy, or trying to run away from the things that you feel are going to make you sad or cause grief for you. So I guess I'm going to be asking you guys a bunch of questions throughout this. And one of the questions is, have you ever wondered why that thing you were so excited about, that raise, the new truck, the job, the bigger house, didn't feel quite as satisfying a few months later? And this is hedonic adaptation, right? You chase this thing, you have this illusion of happiness that once you get to this point, once you achieve that, you're going to be happy, and you are, but then it's going to stabilize. And this is somewhat similar to, I mentioned this on the last podcast, like that arrival fallacy, right? Where once I get to this point, I'll be good. It's very similar to hedonic adaptation. Your body stabilizes, and then you chase different goals. You chase more. And I think that the important thing is to understand where this shows up in your life, where it shows up in your business, how you can create a good example for you, your children, your employees, your wife, to make sure that you're not chasing the wrong things or running away from the wrong things with the expectation of feeling better because of this. And this is something that for me is so important. And I was always chasing happiness. I was always chasing clout. I was always chasing egotism, right? Where it's like, I need to be the best. I need to have the most. I need to get to a certain point. I'm never content with where I am. And that led to a lot of negative experiences in my life. It led to a ton of negative habits, both physically and mentally. And it really just created a lot of unhappiness, and not unhappiness in the respect that, I was walking around with my head down, but just never feeling fulfilled, right? That you're just never stacking up. You're never reaching your full potential, and you never get a chance to just be content with where you are. And something that my wife had taught me, and I believe this was from her father and sobriety, is that, like, you're always running away from something, and you think that if you go somewhere else, or you have a fresh start, or you get a new job, or you buy a new house, or you relocate, that you're going to be happy, as if those outside influences are what's going to create happiness and contentment in your life. And she said, the problem is that no matter where you go, you have to bring yourself with you. And that's a really tough pill to swallow. And in short, it means that, like, no matter what you run away from, no matter if you're chasing a new job or promotion, no matter if it's to get a new car, no matter if it's I want to relocate to the other side of the country, you're going to adapt to that, right? You're that the arrival and getting there is never going to be enough, because the problem is you. The problem's inside of you, and that's what you need to work on. Yes, there may be a positive. There may be many positive outliers in moving, in relocating, in getting the new car. But if that's what you are relying on to provide you with happiness, you're going to just slip right back into your normal ways of thinking, into your normal lifestyle, and nothing's going to change, because nothing changed. You changed the outside experience, you changed your location, but you didn't work on the root of the problem, which is typically within. So let's dive into more deeply again what this hedonic adaptation actually is. And to plainly put it, how many times have you felt in your life that you've finally reached your goals, you've achieved that success, you found happiness, to feel a few days later, a few weeks later, a few months later, that it's just not enough, right? You're not where you want to be. And this is where that treadmill analogy comes in. You continue to run hard, you continue to try more, you put more effort in, and you don't actually get anywhere. And the funny thing is that, like, we think that this is unique to us. We think that there may be ways that we can isolate ourselves from feeling this, but this is born into who we are. This is within our DNA as human beings. This is genetic makeup. This is not something that we necessarily have control over. We can focus on ways to deal with it better, or not rely on it quite as much. But this is something that we've had for a very long time within our genetic makeup, within our existence. And it comes from survival. Thousands of years ago, we were not adapting. If we weren't working to survive, if we were sitting still, if we were becoming complacent, we were dying. If you didn't become stronger, if you didn't find new ways to find food, to eat, to survive, you were dying. It's not necessarily the case now. Like, we are not facing life and death every single day as a whole, as a society. So it creeps into other aspects of our lives where we're constantly looking to adapt. We're constantly looking to become better. We're looking to move forward, but we have to make sure that it is with regard to the right and the path that leads to actual true happiness. And this is something that I have to work on a lot. This is something that I didn't realize till later in life. I was focusing on things that were bringing short-term happiness, and that the problem a lot of times is within. This adaptation can also apply to struggle. It can apply to grief, right? A lot of times we feel that when something bad happens to us, we're never going to be happy again. We're never going to come out of this, and it can wind up making us sink deeper and deeper into potentially a depression. But eventually, for most people who don't have like chemical imbalances, they're going to stabilize. And there's been some studies on this with regard to people having traumatic life experiences, right? Or becoming paralyzed due to an accident doing something that they enjoy to do. And typically, right, when that first happens, they never see they're never going to be happy again. Their life's never going to be the same. They don't understand how they're going to progress. And there's been studies that within a few months, a lot of the normalcies of life come back, and some don't, but you just have a new perspective, a new baseline of happiness, and your actual true happiness isn't that much different from prior to the accident. There's certain aspects of life that are the same, and there's certain aspects are different, but your baseline adapts. And so, right when things happen to us that we think are the end of the world, you have to keep in mind that you're going to stabilize, you're going to come out of this at some point. Time's going to heal this, and you're going to move on. So that's something that I have to keep in mind a lot, right? Sometimes I get in a rut and I cannot see coming out of this rut. I don't understand how it's going to get better. I can't wrap my mind around progressing out of this. And I have to constantly remind myself that this too shall pass. This is just a blip. It's not always going to be this way, no matter how hard it seems that you're to imagine that you're going to come out of this rut, that you're going to. And it may not be something that you do, but you're going to come out of this at some point. So I want to talk some about ways that this shows up in my life, and it could be both positively and negatively. And I want to talk some about big picture and how this can impact our children, how it can impact our clients, our business, your personal life. But for me, this is something that it wasn't until later in my life that I realized I was always chasing the results, and I wasn't necessarily focusing on the process and the preparation. I was goal oriented, and when those goals weren't as fulfilling as I anticipated, I looked to other ways to make them more fulfilling, and they weren't always the healthiest ways. And what ends up happening is this gets you into this treadmill of constantly needing more. You need more. You need more stimulation. You need more money. You need more jobs. You need more love. And it creates really an impossibility of fulfillment. There's no way that you're ever going to have everything that you need to make you happy. So it could be I needed more money, right? So I would land more projects, or I would chase a different project, or I'd chase a relationship with an interior designer, with an architect. I would chase working in different areas, and it would feel really good. I would feel fulfilled when I landed that job, when I got that job. But then, 3 weeks into it, a month into it, it was all the same. Like, it wasn't any different because I didn't change. Maybe the numbers changed, maybe the client base changed, maybe the physical location changed, but I didn't actually change anything within. So those jobs just wound up feeling the same, and it wasn't actually bringing happiness. It was bringing me happiness in short term, but it was like once the thrill of the hunt was over, I was on to the next thing because I needed more. So it could be any job that I felt that I needed to chase, right? And that's something that impacts my business now, where I don't look for the jobs where it's I look for jobs that are going to provide what I need for a lifestyle, what are going to provide financially, what are going to provide for me from a time commitment, both in pre-construction, construction, post-construction. But I'm not chasing projects that, hey, these are going to look really great to post on Instagram. And that's something that I did for a long time because it's in your face, because you see what everyone else is doing, and because you think that that's going to make you happy. And when you're chasing those things, maybe that is what makes you happy. And that's one thing. But for me, it wasn't. Like, deep down, it wasn't. It was the thrill of the hunt. It was the chase. But then once I got there, it was just never, ever, ever enough. So I needed more. I needed bigger things. I needed bigger jobs. The contracts needed to be bigger. And it just wound up being adding zeros to things. It wasn't freeing up my life. It wasn't making me happier. It wasn't giving me the opportunity to work less, to be able to spend time with my family, to build relationships, to be able to ride my dirt bike, to have friendships, all the things that in life should actually bring you true happiness, fulfilling happiness, long-standing happiness. I was chasing the wrong things. And that's something that is so easy in today's day and age. It's so easy with social media, with Instagram, and people are curating these lifestyles and businesses that you see, and you compare yourself, and you're never gonna, you're always chasing what somebody else has. And that's one of the big reasons why our kids don't have cell phones. Selby's going into 7th grade this year. All of her friends have cell phones. Tilly's going into 4th. All of her friends, well, not all of her friends, but a lot of her friends have cell phones. And we just don't want it. Like there's a certain time within your life that you're going to be happy, that you're going to be a kid, that you're going to just be able to enjoy what you're doing and focus on being present and not looking to when I get my license, when I get that dress, when I get invited to that party. And we want them to be able to enjoy that now, because even as an adult, it's so hard to be able to enjoy everything that you have in your life, all the good things in your life, when you're constantly being bombarded with, this person has more. Look what I have. Look how great my life is. So understanding what you actually value in life and what's important to you and what can create fulfilling happiness and contentment, because we're not going to be happy all the time. That's just an experience that we're going to have, and it's going to be short-lived. But what can create a fulfilling life and a lifestyle for us, and focusing on those things rather than the illusion of what you think's going to make you happy. And this is something that, again, I struggled with for a long time. It's one of the reasons why I stopped drinking when I was 23 years old, and why I have to be careful about certain things that I do, because I'm gas on, I'm gas off. I'm either 0 miles an hour or I'm 100 miles an hour. There's really not any in between. So if I have this illusion that something's going to make me happy, I will go 100 miles an hour until I get there, and then I realize it's not enough, so I need more. So I just have to be really careful about what I spend my time doing, making sure that it's healthy for me physically, that it's healthy for me emotionally, and that it's creating a lifestyle for me that actually brings me happiness. Is more money going to make me happy? In certain ways, yes. Like if you don't have money, money's going to make your life easier. It's going to bring some happiness in your life if you cannot afford basic needs. But it's not always going to make you happier. Sometimes it's going to make you less happy, and you don't realize it because you begin to start chasing that dragon. And that's something that I just have to be careful with. I have to manage. I have to ensure that I'm being present, and that I'm setting a good example for my kids as to what they should chase, and what actually makes them happy and what might not make them happy. Because the problem often lies in, once you reach those goals, that they're short-lived. And for me, that window of like happiness is shorter and shorter and shorter. And I can even look at this from racing dirt bikes, right? Where it's like, I want to get the top 50, the top 20, the top 15. And it's like, as soon as you reach that, like initially be like, all right, a month, I feel good, or until the next race, I feel good. And then it was like, all right, a couple days. And now it's like, I look at my results and immediately I'm like, well, I should have beat that person. This wasn't good enough. If I didn't make this mistake, and it's creating less and less happiness for me. It's creating more drive to do things that more than likely are just going to wind to disappointment, being unfulfilled and wanting more. So I have to realize, why am I doing this? Or am I being result driven? Or am I enjoying the process? Am I enjoying going out and being in the woods with my daughter? Am I enjoying going out, being in the woods by myself with my friends, learning from them, teaching them? Is that more important than where I wind up on the results at the end of the day? Or am I going to allow those results or lack of results to create a good experience for me? Because I could look at a race where I didn't finish where I anticipated, and I could potentially be more happy than a race where I did wind up where I wanted to, but I just didn't enjoy myself because it wasn't fun, right? So you have to understand what's going to bring that happiness. And I think that in life is one thing, but in business, because this is Modern Craftsman podcast, that it's really important to ensure that you are not just constantly moving goalposts, because you will never be happy. Your business will never be enough, and you will focus more and more on these goals that really aren't going to change your life at all, right? If I land one more job, if I get out of the field, if I can hire one more person, This just winds up being like the equivalent of lifestyle inflation. And for me, all that did was it led to burnout. It led to frustration and a lack of peace in my life. And most of this was brought through comparison, right? What everyone else has, the numbers that they're generating in business, how many employees they have. And now I don't focus on those things. Now I focus on creating free time. Now I focus on creating less stress. Now I focus on maintaining relationships with partners and people in my life that mutually respect and value the relationship that we have, and we can further that relationship together. So rather than just focusing on my needs and what I need and how I need to make money and how I need to have this many employees and how I need to have my sales volume reach a certain number that's in my head, and how I'm reaching for goals that are all driven by comparison or driven by results. I now focus on, I want free time. I want to be able to help my kids with their sports. I want to be home when they get home from school or from camp. I want to be able to attend all of their athletic events, all of their school events. I want to be around for them on the weekends. I want to create time to be able to go out once or twice a week and ride my dirt bike. I want to be able to work with Fine Home Building. I want to be able to work with Anderson. I want to be able to work with Loctite, with LP, with Rockwell. Like, I want to be able to work with all of these companies to be able to help them help me. And when I focus my goals on these relationships and maintaining these relationships and building these relationships, the results provide me happiness. And whether it's financial or whether it's personal, whether it's mental, whether it's physical, it leads to a business and a lifestyle that's sustainable for me. And I think that when you focus on things, those type of things, it all works out because I'm focused less on the dollar. I'm focused less on the clout. I'm focused less on the project that's Instagrammable, that everyone's going to think is pretty and is going to get this many likes, and that nobody else is doing these things these ways. Because those things for me, and I may be different than you, but those things for me didn't actually bring sustainable, fulfilling happiness in my life. They typically just led to disappointment. And they led to frustration, and they led to me working harder, trying more, and just failure and burnout. And like, I wasn't happy. And then I started looking elsewhere outside of my life for more. Like, just, it was never enough. Enough was never enough. And I needed more. And now I focus on the appreciation. I focus on the opportunities that I have with other contractors, with trade shows, with friendships, right? Ryan at Kukin Brothers, like people that I've known for years that are willing to help me, and I'm able to help them. And there's a relationship there that's more than just one-sided. It's not just about Tyler. It's not just about TRG. I even think about this from a customer perspective, right? Where people reach out to me, and when I focus on my purpose, when I focus on my values, when I focus on landing jobs that really make the most sense to me from like this holistic lifestyle and holistic business approach, maybe they don't make me quite as much money, and maybe they don't get me quite as many likes on Instagram, and maybe they're not as cool as what other people are doing, but it creates a lifestyle for me that's so much more enjoyable. And to me, that's priceless. Focusing on having gratitude for these things, focusing on showing up for the people who are showing up for me, the relationships in my life. At the end of the day, those are what are really important. Whether I have a new truck, whether I have 1 million followers on Instagram, whether I have more money than the people who live around me, whether, I anything that is superficial like that is not going to bring me true happiness. And that's really hard. That's really hard to focus on. That's really hard to come to terms with. And that's really hard to constantly work on and maintain, because it's being shoved in our face from a million different angles every single day, 24/7. We are being shown this curated photos, videos, storylines of what you need to be doing, who you need to be, what you need to have to be successful. And that's intentional. And typically for me, that led to an unfulfilling lifestyle that was really hard to maintain and to wake up every day. So I realized that so much of this, when I heard this podcast and I was listening to it, is relatable from like the arrival fallacy and also the hedonic adaptation. And it's good to look at it from the negative aspect, where like when things go really wrong, when you experience grief, when you experience hardship, that you're going to stabilize from that, but also that like I can't chase things that I think are going to make me happy, because once I have those things, I'm probably not going to be any happier. I might be for a couple days, I might be for a month, I might be for, a few weeks, whatever it is. But my mind develops a new normal so quickly that I have to be careful, because enough will never be enough. And I think a lot of people can probably relate to that with how our lives are set up, and Instagram and social media, Facebook, YouTube, all of those things, and what we see everyone doing and what's constantly shoved down our throats. But I think that when we realize there's more important things than that, I think that you can create a more suitable lifestyle for you. You can probably create a much more sustainable business, because now you're focused on things that actually bring you happiness. And maybe it's not making $1 million. Maybe it's making $200,000 and then having some time for your family and having some time for your life, and not having to answer the phone 24/7 and not having to be working 100 hours a week. But we are trained, and we are being fed the illusion that this is happiness and this is success. And for me, the harder that I run, I wasn't outrunning this adaptation. Like my brain always can outrun the physical aspect of my life. And the harder I ran, the more I began to spin my wheels, and the harder it was to keep my head above water. So what I realized, what I really needed to do is I needed to step off. I needed to step away. I needed to step back and figure out what actually matters to me. And I had to experiment with that, because I didn't know. Like I thought I knew, but I didn't know what actually mattered to me. And once I slowed down, I realized what was actually important to me. Don't get me wrong, I still chase those things. I still think that like, a $90,000 diesel truck with leather interior and screens and electric this and electric that and like nice wheels, that'd be sick to have. Like I'm human, right? Having the best of this, the best of that, having a brand new trailer, having a brand new house, having more land, having more equipment, having better job. Like I still think, yeah, like that's going to make me happy, and it will for a few days, for a few weeks, but then it's just going to be the same me here, and I'm going to have something new, but that newness isn't going to be as exciting to me. So I'm going to reach for the next level of newness. And if you're not careful, like I was, I just continue to chase. And when enough is never enough, you start going beyond. And when you get into that beyond is where you start getting yourself into trouble, because you're really just looking for exterior motivations for your happiness, and it's never going to be enough for you. And it can really start impacting you physically and mentally, and you can start turning to things that just aren't great for you. So my advice to all of you would be everything that you're seeing, everything that you're chasing, what you believe to be the most important, to kind of assess that and inventory that and see if there's things in your life that might actually bring some more happiness to you and why you're doing the things you're doing, and ask yourself, right, like, is that job really going to make me happy? Is that new truck really going to make me happy? Is hiring one more person really what I need? Is reaching $5 million in sales really going to change anything? Or is it going to be the same me, the same person inside of that skin with the same issues that I'm really not addressing, arriving at that $5 million? And then that $5 million isn't enough, right? You need 6, you need 7, you need 10. And that's just going to create a lot of restlessness. And I don't think that there's much fulfillment there. And societally, that's just what we're being fed. And I'm not perfect at this. This is something that I would say for me, especially, I need to work on. Like, I'm well aware that this is something that I struggle with, and that enough is never enough for me. And that if 1 is good, 10 is going to be better. That's me. That's my addictive personality. That is me being driven. Second place is never good enough for me. And then once you get first place is never good enough for me. You need to go bigger. You need to expand the sample size. And I have to realize that, like, the results are not what's important. And this is something I struggle with every day. Like I said, my wife told me, no matter where we go, you're going to be there. And that's a really strong reminder that I'm probably the problem. Like, inside my ears is probably the problem, and not everyone else. So I know this podcast is a little bit different than normal. Again, I wasn't anticipating recording something today, but I had my podcast studio set up. I was on a call, and this podcast, like, I was running, and I was just listening to this, and I was like, like, I've never heard of this term before, and it's so relatable to me. It's so relatable to me. And the problem that I was realizing was that the fulfillment was becoming less and less sustainable. So if I got to a point or a goal and it kept me happy for 2 months, the next time it's only going to keep me happy for a month, and then 2 weeks, and then a week, and then a day. And then I'm going to get there, and I'm not going to be happy as soon as I get there. And then I'm going to become less happy, like, as I'm arriving at that goal, realizing that this isn't going to do it for me. And that's when I needed to look inward. And that's when I need to continue to look inward and understand, what am I chasing? What's important to me? What's going to bring me happiness? And I've based my life on that. I based my business on that. And I am far from perfect. You can ask anyone in my family. You can ask any of my friends. You can ask my wife, my kids. I'm not claiming to be perfect. I'm so far from perfect. It's not funny, but I'm better. I'm better than I was. I'm better than I was a year ago. I'm better than I was a month ago. Maybe today I'm not better than I was yesterday, but give me 2 days, give me 3 days, give me a week. I'm going to constantly try and be better. I'm happier now than I've ever been. I'm more content now than I've ever been. I've had less anxiety now than I ever have. My marriage is better than it ever has been. I'm a better father. And, like, when I look big picture, I just want to keep heading in that direction. And what am I doing to ensure that? And it's not just coasting. It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of gratitude. It takes a lot of internal reflection. That's something that we can all do and we can all handle. So I hope that this podcast, possibly for a lot of you people who are out there can shed some light on what I experience and what I struggle with, and what brings me actual happiness. And I'm not happy all the time. Like, I'm probably happy less than most people, but, like, you can't expect to be happy all the time. Happiness is fleeting. You're not going to be happy all the time. Like, you hope that you're happier more than you're sad. But in order to create that fulfillment in your life, you have to be chasing the right type of happy. And for me, I was focusing on the wrong things, and I still focus on the wrong things a lot. But hopefully this will help some of you who are in that point in your life where you just feel like you don't have what everyone else has, you're never going to get there, your business isn't where it needs to be, start focusing on the things that actually matter. Because at the end of the day, there's a lot more that matters than the shit that you see on Instagram, the shit that everyone else is doing in business, right? It's about the relationships. It's about working together with people. It's about your family. It's about your free time. It's about your mental clarity, your mental health, your physical health, your well-being, because that's really all we really have. All right, guys and girls, I hope that you enjoyed this. I will catch you next week.